I'm Liebe, Hart. I've been studying acting and music for many years. I took music theory and piano at Berkeley School for Music, LA City College, and some classes at UCLA, and took acting classes. My parents had me going to Goodman Theater when I was a child, growing up in the 50s and the 60s. I look a lot older than what I really am, but if you think young, you'll always be young. When you rule your mind, you rule your world. What a man thinketh in his heart, so is he.
All right, so why, what drove your love of the art, like whatever it is?
I always loved performing. I used to be a musician at the Christian Science Church. I grew up as a kid. I led the worship band, and then my grandmother, one grandmother went to the Progressive Baptist Church, and I was a choir director in Chicago, and led the music there, and they saw I could play piano. First I started out singing in the choir. They saw I had a singing ability, so I went to the evening service and did music for my grandmother's church, and then I had another grandmother that was Lutheran, and I did music at the Lutheran church as well. And I just had a love for religious music, and it grew into doing rock and roll music and contemporary Christian music.
Well, tell me a little bit how the band formed.
Okay, I'm Adam Papagan. I had a public access show called the Junior Christian Science Bible Lesson Show. Jim Henson was my Sunday school teacher several times when I visited Washington, D.C. at family reunions, and I had the pleasure of having him as a Sunday school teacher there. And I had Bert Stilston as a Sunday school teacher in Chicago at 17th Church of Christ Scientists. And then when I went to family reunions in Canada, I had the guy that did the Friendly Giant, who taught in the Christian Science Sunday School. And they taught with puppets the Ten Commandments and the Beatitudes, and to live morally right as a Christian. And they taught with puppets. And I met, this is really strange, they saw the Christian Science Sunday School was dying out, and they asked me, they went to other famous Christian Science entertainers and asked them if they would do a puppet show, and they didn't want to. So I agreed to do a public access show called the Junior Christian Science Bible Lesson Show. It was supposed to go on the Christian Science Monitor channel, but the Monitor channel was sold to Discovery Channel. So I had Mr. Hoagland, who was over the Monitor channel, I'm stuck with all of these programs I did. And Adam Papagan, when he was a little boy, his parents brought him to see the puppet show I did. And the Dale Talk Show became a spin-off first from the Junior Christian Science Bible Lesson Show, because he hosted the Junior Christian Science Bible Lesson Show. Then he got a job being an intern with Tim and Eric when I was working on there. And then we wanted to form a band. Since I liked rock and roll music, I was open-minded to doing a punk rock band with him and doing country western music with him. I used to play at the Palomino in Southern California, and I had love for country western music. And I used to play in the Chicago, Illinois area, in the suburban area, and Walnut Creek area, doing contemporary country western music and contemporary Christian songs.
Now tell me, what are some of your absolute favorite things to do? Whether it's art related, whether it's just sitting around in your socks. What's your absolute favorite thing?
I have a huge collection of model trains. I like to run my model trains. I grew up in, my favorite train was the Chicago North Shore and Milwaukee Railroad. And it was unjustly taken out by its competition, politics instead of politics. It had a train called the Electroliner, they called the Roadrunner train, that went out to 150 miles an hour. And that was my first love for trains. And when it got to Chicago, it ran on the Chicago L structure. And when it got to Milwaukee, it ran in the street like a streetcar. And it was a train that was ahead of its time with air conditioning and diving. It was just a wonderful train.
Now,
I'd like to add something else.
Yeah.
I could have been a big star in the 60s. Danny Thomas wanted to cast me in a show called The Andy Griffith Show with Opie. And he saw me in a play called Porky and Bess in Chicago. And this is when TV was in black and white. Well, Danny Thomas paid for my mother and dad to go round trip to Southern California. And there I read for the Andy Griffith Show. And the Andy Griffith Show was a spinoff for Make Room for Danny. Danny Thomas got arrested when he went through Mayberry, and they gave Andy Griffith a spinoff called the Andy Griffith Show. And I was supposed to be Opie's best friend. But my parents didn't want me to get in show business at an early age. And so it never came to be. But I could have been a good star way back in the 60s. So when I came to California in the 70s, I pursued my acting career. I stayed with my white relatives that were the McKinnons, and I worked in exchange for my rent, managing her apartment buildings, and she was on the Scotch-Irish Caucasian side, and I worked there in exchange for my rent, where I pursued my acting career. And then she passed on, and the spouses inherited all the property, so family members had to move out. But I was there for 15 years after she died, and she believed in me, and she was a retired mom. And I kept on pursuing my acting career, mailing out pictures and resumes. I had big parts in different TV shows and movies. They got me the Screen Actors Guild at AFTRA and SAG in that one union. But back then they were separate unions, and you could not get into SAG not unless you had speaking lines. And back then in the 70s, it cost $500 to join SAG, and now it's something like $15,000. And Tim and Eric saw me and cast me in they had me to come in for a code reading. And they had me to read a script, and they liked my script, and they liked how I memorized things and read things. So then they had me to do they asked me, I told them, they saw my puppet show, the Junior Christian Science Bible Lesson Show, and they saw how I wrote contemporary Christian music. So they cast me in the Tim and Eric Cosby Show, great job. And I started working on many of their shows. 5 seasons passed on the Tim and Eric Cosby Show, great job. I also toured with them. They didn't use me in the last tour of 2011, but I toured with them from 2004 all the way to 2010, all across the United States. And the place I toured with them is at the Caesar Palace. I got John C. Reilly from Chicago liked me, and I started working on the spinoff called Check It Out with Dr. Steve Rule. And I helped James Wall get on the Tim and Eric Awesome Show. Great job. He was a past host of the Junior Christian Science Bible Lesson Show. He's a talented, outstanding comedian. You can see the Junior Christian Science Bible Lesson Show today on the internet. Now, the conservative Republicans in my church don't understand what I'm doing. They don't get it, and they're against my punk rock band and my music. And I invite them to come out and see me. And I could attract a lot of people to Christian Science, but they're closed-minded. And Dorothy Estes told me as long as she's working at the Christian Science Mother Church, she'll never have a CD produced by an African American. But that's what, So I'm grateful I can share my talent this way.